how do you create fresh, funny characters? And the answer to that is think about the last time you got together with all your family. You know, in the States, you know, it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, uh, and look around the table. And the combination of archetypical characters, which we will talk about in a later session, the in Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, you have all these archetypical characters: the hero, the mentor, uh, the antagonist. In comedy, you can break it down into archetypical characters as well. You have um, just coming from the commedia dell'arte, you have the clever, tricky servants. You have the Arlecchino, the kind of the child man. You have the Brigella. He's the more uh, vicious servant. Think Bluto in a Popeye cartoon. You have um, the Pedrolino. He's the go-between servant. He's always trying to make a match between the young master and the courtesan, and he's also at the same time trying to get money from the old man, the lecherous old man, uh, that character who is always trying to get the young girl too. There's the courtesan. There's the uh, capitano, because in the commedia, which was originated in Italy, they were occupied by parts of it. Parts of Italy were occupied by Spain, and so they made this character Il Capitano, who was a cowardly, braggart soldier who bragged about what a great womanizer he was and what a great soldier he was, but he always fled at the first sound of a shot. You had Il Dottore, who was the gas bag academic who spoke in nonsense and had no common sense. So you have all these archetypical characters. Um, and and so some people, some screenwriter teachers break it up in different ways. Chris Soth talks about the Wizard of Oz. That you know, in your cast of characters, there's a Dorothy, there's a Wicked Witch, there's a Cowardly Lion, there's a Scarecrow. I often see combinations of. And can we mute? I think.
Yeah.
What? Hold on one second. Let me do that. I'm going to mute all. Okay. But you can always unmute yourselves if you have a question or if I ask you a question. So I often see combinations of Winnie the Pooh in casts. I mean, for instance, in Seinfeld, Kramer is a Tigger. You know, he's got all this energy and he's insane. And George is an Eeyore. You know, he's, oh boy, nothing's going to happen for me. So you can often slice up characters in terms of Winnie the Pooh and the Thousand Acre Woods. The main idea, though, however you slice up characters, as Jung says, an archetypical character is just a slice of a universal truth that we all have within us. But where do you find the specifics? You find the specifics around your dinner table. And you take the reality of the people that you actually know, including yourself, and you imbue your characters with those traits. For instance, in the commedia, you have the Pantalone, the lecherous old man, or in Moliere's work, it's the the old man who has hypochondria, or the misanthrope. You have all varieties of Pantalone. And if you look at All in the Family, you could say, oh, Archie Bunker, he's a classic Pantalone. He's a grouchy old man. But Norman Lear created Archie Bunker completely out of his father. His father, who was a felon, who went away for a long time during his childhood to prison, who Norman Lear's father told him, "You were the laziest white man in the world." And that line was told by Archie Bunker to Meathead in episode 1. Norman Lear's father would call his wife a dingbat. He would say to her, "Stifle." And that dialogue, that behavior became infused with the archetypical character of the old man, the Pantalone, to create this fresh, funny character. So when you're creating characters, don't try to create characters out of whole cloth. I guess you could, but as one person once said, all fiction is autobiography. All fiction is autobiography. You're either writing about yourself or about your parents or your wife or your children or people that you know very well. Because you know them, you know their specifics, and that's what you want to imbue into your characters. Your specifics. And in fact, whether you're writing a screenplay or you're doing stand-up, you're sharing yourself, your own point of view, your own weird take on the world, your own idiosyncrasies. Because that's who you're going to make fun of first. You're going to make fun of yourself first, and then you can broaden the field. But as someone once said, and I think that someone was me, invention is overrated. Invention is overrated. Better than invention is recollection. Better than invention is introspection. You need to invent when you create your big bang of a premise. That's where you invent, and then you gather the pieces that you're going to use to tell that story. And part of those pieces are yourself, what you would do. When Chris Rock first started doing movies, he's a brilliant stand-up. He hasn't been a brilliant screenwriter and director. When he first started doing movies, he would take weird situations and try to figure out what's the funniest thing that could happen here. But then as he progressed and as he worked with, sorry to say, the red-haired stand-up comic who shall not be named, and CK, and because CK was really, besides being a horrible human being, kind of a brilliant comic and comedian, he kind of taught Chris Rock, and Chris Rock would attest to that, to ask the question, not what's the funniest thing my character could do, but what would my character do? And how can you answer that unless you personalize the question? What would I do if I were that character in that situation?